Go ahead, Supervisor Friends. I think
Can I? So, resolution of intent. We could have added those 3 parts of or 4 parts of our motion to a table right there too.
Well, that's. I think that if we were to add the retention standards, we would need to workshop what those retention standards might look like. Is it 50%, 10%? We did not do that. We decided to include that as an alternative. It was the decision of our board. We can second guess that today, but I'm just suggesting that we're being consistent and that there is an opportunity to include some retention standard as an alternative that we can consider through this process. And I think that that's what we heard from the public. It may not have been what everybody wanted, but we did hear it and we did include it. And the action today was in a similar way to add that rare plan item to the table, not to the language, but just to the table. So,
Supervisor Rinaldi,
yes.
I'm not saying second guess ourselves. All I'm saying is those 4 parts of that motion, just make it be exactly the same language it is as part of ROI.
And that motion, that motion is very, very clear to include the retention standards as an alternative in the EIR process. That was the motion, and those were the words that we all used and voted on.
Yes.
And I welcome actually and encourage you to reconfirm, and I got up this morning deliberately to confirm that point so that I could be comfortable here today for this action.
Okay. So resolution of intent is something that this board uses to capture where we are.
Because we tend to forget what we thought.
Okay, so
the same, but also, I mean, that was mentioned on Tuesday. So are your motions. So again, the motion captured it. Staff has been directed to consider a project alternative. If it's the intent of the board to consider revisions to the resolution at this time to add in the second part of the motion, the other items, I think I would be more comfortable to probably stop and schedule a discussion about that so that we have more specificity in that ROI about what the board's anticipation is.
the reason we did not add that at the meeting was because we didn't want to have another meeting. So I completely understand that. But when you capture an ROI and you have a separate motion, you have 2 different places to keep track of things. I think we're going for simplicity. Just keep everything in one place. Keep it all in ROI or keep it all in emotion. The way we do things right now is just so complicated and adds so much overhead. And in order to find something, you got to go to 10 different places. All I'm saying is keep it in one place, either ROI or the motion. If your ROI has everything, add those 4 lines to the end of it, and your motion just approves the ROI. Thank you.
With that, I'll open this up for public comment.
Jamie Butler. Want to thank Shauna for helping me understand more clearly what the process is. Very complicated. I also want to thank Supervisor Fretzen for expressing my views and some of my frustrations. So I want to give you guys a snapshot of what I see, not being a member of the staff and not being a member of the Board of Supervisors. This is just the way I and other people in the public, I believe, view it. So here's what it says. It removes retention standards by incorporating incentive-based approach for Oak Woodland impacts. Okay, that's what I see written on the changes made, and what I see was the intent was adding tree retention requirements to drafted policies. So I see, on the one hand, that there is a removal of retention standards, and on the other hand, I see that the discussion was all around adding retention requirements. I get confused. How does this work? When it was very clear to the board and to the staff that retention oak requirements was what we were concerned about, and somehow the language that got in there was the negative, removes retention requirements or standards. But it goes on to say, by incorporating incentive-based approach for our Oak Woodland impact avoidance, which is fine, but all we see is the removal of retention. So I think that, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Larry Combs.
Larry Combs was correct when he said, again, the perception of the public in this process is that you're not hearing what we're saying. When in fact, people who are more knowledgeable about this, like Supervisor Rinaldi and like Sean and Purvines, say, but we did. We included it. So the question now becomes, how do we resolve this? Because this is an ongoing, very serious problem that costs the county a lot of time and a lot of money. And I would like to just suggest a couple of things that might help this situation, if I might. First of all, I'd like to suggest that you rewrite the ROI to include positive language about including Oak Woodland standards. Let me see, hold on here. Language that supports oak retention makes it more clear, so that the public understands that you understand what we said.
You're okay, Jamie.
Okay, and then quickly, before the meeting, Sean and I had an opportunity to talk a little bit, and I suggested to her that maybe one of the things we could do was to have some of the people from the community, like myself and several others who are interested in this, to help with the wording of some of this so that it more accurately reflects the public. It's a proactive stance rather than a reactive stance to what's happening. So the process is right now, the NOP goes out, the ROI goes out, and then we ask for comment, and the public is already feeling like they're left out. So can we include public people in the process beforehand to work with the staff so that people understand that we have already reached an agreement that, you know, with the desires that the public have been heard, and that the staff can reflect that. And I don't know how we go about doing that. I'm just suggesting that if you guys like the concept, I would be willing to work on that with several other people in the community. And hopefully we can avoid this, we can avoid lawsuits, we can avoid loss of time, we can avoid bad feeling. That's what I would like. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.